So the last bit of memory is to look at the cognitive interview. So this is a specific interview technique used by the police using psychological knowledge to try to get people to remember as much as possible. You've got the normal cognitive interview, and you also see some books refer to the enhanced cognitive interview, which is just a more up-to-date version of the cognitive interview. So it's based on two principles. It's to do with the organisation of our memories and to do with context dependency. So in terms of organisation, the way that our memory is organised in schemas and in our long-term memory means that there's many different ways to access one piece of information, and context dependency is the idea that our memories are context dependent. So they're linked to the situation in which they're encoded in. And we've looked at context dependency before when we looked at retrieval failure. Now, in terms of the cognitive interview, and the main bulk of your AO1 is to be able to describe what we mean by the cognitive interview. And it's basically an interview that has 4 specific steps or 4 specific things that need to happen during the interview. There needs to be context reinstatement, a chance to report everything, a chance to recall from a changed perspective, and a chance to recall in reverse order. So context reinstatement is thoughts and feelings from the time, and that's in order to try and trigger some cues. Again, it's cue dependent to try to recall more information. Report everything is not deciding which information is more or less important. It's just recalling everything you possibly can. Recalling from a changed perspective, looking at it from across the street or from someone else's point of view to see if that makes a difference into what you recall. And recalling in reverse order is when you go non-chronologically, because we tend to use our schema to create a chronology of our memory. And that's your AO1. That's pretty much your AO1. You just need to be able to name the stages, know the stages. It doesn't matter what order they occur in, be able to describe the stages. Now, there's a fictional example of the cognitive interview being used here on the program Criminal Minds. So that's worth a look to see what we mean by the cognitive interview and how it works. And then there's also an example from a BBC experiment where people were eyewitnesses to a crime and the cognitive interview was used. So there's 3 parts of the BBC video. You've got the first one there, and then the second one. And then in the third one, you've got the psychologist, Becky Milne from Portsmouth University talking through the cognitive interview. Now, it's worth knowing that in the exam, AQA could give you an AO2 question where they give you a scenario and then they ask you which stage of the cognitive interview the scenario refers to. So from the 4 stages that we had before, in the order we had them before, you might be asked which stage the scenario belongs in. So please don't edit anything out of your report. Things you might not be important come under recall everything. And then there's some more examples on here for you to go through and to have a think about which of the 4 stages from before they refer to. And the number obviously refers to the stage from the previous slide. So that's the second one. The third one. It's a bit of an eye test at the end. And then the 4th one. And the 5th one, you've got a different perspective. So you might get an AO2 question in the exam where it gives you a scenario, it gives you an example, and it asks you which stage of the cognitive interview it might refer to. So make sure that you can do that as well as describe the stages. So that's for your AO1 and your AO2. There's some research that you can use for your AO1 and your AO3. So you've got a study by Gieselman and Fisher who found that cognitive interview technique works best when used within a short time following a crime rather than a long time afterwards. And then you've got some research by Milne and Bull who found that the report everything and context reinstatement components are the most important. Now, that second point can be used in your AO1. So those are the 2 most important concepts to learn out of the 4, or that can be used in your AO3. And Milne, that's Becky Milne that you saw in the clip before. In terms of evaluation, you'll need 3 AO3 points because you could get a 16-mark essay on cognitive interview. Gieselman found that cognitive interview technique is more effective for recall than a standard interview. And it's been found that even without training, it's more effective than standard interviews. So they're kind of positive points. So you've got the real life application there. However, police have to be specially trained, which is expensive and time consuming and might not happen in real life. And information takes a lot longer to process because a lot more information is produced. There's extra evaluation points in your booklet and in your textbook on this as well. So please read through them. If you had a 16-mark question, your AO1 would just be to outline the 4 stages, and you'd get 6 marks for that. And then your AO3 would be 10 marks just for going through 3 elaborated evaluation points. Remember, as ever, please try to link it back to some issues and debates, or obviously it's a cognitive interview technique. You can link this back to the cognitive approach and the advantages and disadvantages of the cognitive approach. That could be one of your AO3 points for the cognitive interview.